Hey everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and today I just finished watching Ant-Man Quantumania. I actually just came back from the theaters. I'm actually pretty tired, so if I end up rambling a little bit too much, I apologize, and I'm going to try to keep my head clear as possible, but man, I am really tired. But anyways, let's just get into it. I'm going to give my non-spoiler thoughts first, and then I will go into full spoilers to, just say up front, did I actually like this movie? I would say on the whole, yeah, actually I had a pretty good time with this movie. There are flaws, definitely, right? In the lead up to this movie, I was getting really excited, really hyped. The trailers were really good, right? I was like, oh, cool, it's King and, Secret Wars and King Dynasty and all that stuff, multiverse, and then the reviews started coming out, and the reviews started to get me worried, and I was like, oh no, and look, let's not mince words here. Marvel has, they've had a lot more ups and downs than usual. Usually it was just like more up and up and up and some downs. Now it's more like up, down, up, down, up, so my point is, having another movie come out that's getting mixed reviews is, that was disappointing, right? But watching the movie myself, I had a good time. And maybe it was knowing that this was not some kind of masterpiece of a movie. Not that I thought it was going to be a masterpiece of a movie. Maybe that somehow prepared me for, the movie I was about to watch. I don't know. But I will say, I had a good time overall. But let's go ahead and go into a little bit of the actual problems here. So first, there are some elements of the movie, and again, I'm still doing non-spoilers. There are some elements of the movie that they seem very generic sci-fi. We've seen it 1,000 times before, and I think this is what the critics kept on relating to Star Wars, and it's just something that, like, it felt like, I don't know if it necessarily could have been taken out of the movie, but it definitely didn't need to have as much screen time as much attention as it got. So, that's a thing. The comedy, I would say the comedy works more than it doesn't work. There were a couple jokes that, like, okay, they didn't go anywhere, no one reacted to it, but a lot of the times, my audience at least, was laughing along with the jokes. So, I heard that a lot of people were like, oh, the comedy doesn't work. I'm like, that's just not true. At least not for my audience, it wasn't true. And just, if you go into this movie expecting this to be like the close off of a trilogy for Ant-Man, or even just to be like, just like the first two Ant-Mans where you're just like spending time with this group, obviously you are getting that because they are the main characters of the movie, but it's definitely not about them as much. It's more so about this world that they're going into and what happened to this world and who this Kang guy is, and the whole backstory there, and how this is all gonna, and why he's such a big threat and why we need to stop this and that, so if you're going into this looking for, like, you want to hang out with Scott Lang's friends who the company he started, the security company and all that stuff, they're not even in this movie. Like a lot of that kind of stuff, it's not here. This is more like the Kang movie with a co-star of the Ant-Man family. That's more what it's like. So I think that is one thing. I feel almost like they should have called this Ant-Man versus Kang or something like that. I don't know, but I do think that if you go in looking for this to be just like the other two Ant-Mans, you're gonna be disappointed, because it's not that movie. This is trying to be something very different. And I mean, the director, Peyton Reed, right, he came out and literally said he was trying to make a different tone movie, a different kind of movie altogether. So he didn't want to have just a palate cleanser, like, oh, it's just a fun, lighthearted, jokey movie. It's like, he wanted to do something a little bit more consequential to the overall universe. And that's definitely what this is focused on. It's definitely what this manages to accomplish. But it is in sacrifice of, spending time with Ant-Man and his friends, and, going on more wacky adventures in San Francisco or something, like that's not what happens in this movie. So there is that, like 90% of this movie is in the quantum realm, and you're meeting new people and new stuff, and it's about this new world, and so there is that element to it where it's like your enjoyment of this movie is entirely going to depend on what you go into it looking for. For me personally, I have been waiting for Marvel to finally take that step forward to whatever the next big event is. You know, it felt like all of Phase 4 was about setting up new heroes, you know, like new characters that they're gonna bring back later, right? Like that's the majority of what Phase 4 was. And this is the first movie where it really feels like, okay, we know exactly where we're going. We know exactly who the bad guy is and what we want to do and what we're leading up to. And this is the very, you know, not the first step. I would say Loki, the TV show, is the first step. But this is, you know, another big step towards like what's going on with the Kang dynasty and all that stuff, you know? So if you go in there looking for that stuff because that's what you wanted, right? If you go in saying, I want to see the bigger picture of Marvel. I'm tired of these one-off stories where something happens but it doesn't really tie into the larger universe of where this is all headed, you know, because I made this point a few weeks ago. All of Phase 4, the common criticism over and over and over again you heard was that they don't seem to have a direction. They don't seem to have a plan. None of this stuff is connecting to each other. What's even the plan? What's the plan? Right? Like that was constantly being said. Well, here, this movie very clearly lays out, like, this is the plan. We have the plan. We're literally just, like, showing you what the plan's gonna be. Here's the after credits sequence that, like, directly ties into the movie you just saw, that directly ties into the Loki TV show. This is all the plan. You know what I'm saying? So, if you go in there looking for that, you're getting exactly what you want. But if you're going in there looking for, you know, this Ant-Man movie to be like the other two Ant-Man movies, or for this to be the end of a trilogy or something, it's not really that. That's not what it's about. That's not what it's trying to be. So, you know what I mean? Like, I understand where a lot of the criticisms that this movie's getting are coming from in those regards. So let's go ahead and just go into some spoilers here. And so there you go. If you heard that, now let's go into some spoilers. Here we go. All right. Okay, so first things first. Kang. Let's just talk about Kang. So Kang, everyone's been raving about it. Like, he is awesome in this movie. The acting is great. He's really intimidating. He's an exile, and he was exiled in the quantum realm by the Kang dynasty, by the Council of Kangs, you know. And in the after credits sequence, or the mid credit sequence, they even show you all the different Kangs. There's a bunch of Kangs. Some of them are in different costumes. Some of them look like different creatures. It's very much like the end of Loki, where Loki saw all the Loki variants. Now we're seeing all the Kang variants. So it's like the same exact idea. And this one is a stadium filled with Kangs. And basically, you sort of get a little bit of a backstory here, where this version of Kang had tried to conquer and start a war and done all this other stuff, and so this Council of Kings got together and they sabotaged his ship, and so he crashed into the quantum realm, because the quantum realm is a place without any space or time, where like it's just outside of those realms, right? Now, you know, this does all kind of bring into question things about Loki, which, like, you know, Loki introduced us to He Who Remains, which is supposed to have been, you know, he's there after this great war between all the Kangs, and he's the last one, he's the victor, and he used the TVA to start pruning all the timelines, making sure that no other Kangs would ever survive, right? Now, that version of Kang is not mentioned at all in this movie. He's not mentioned by the Kang that we're fighting, he's not mentioned by the Council of Kangs in their brief little scene at the end of the credits, right? So, it does kind of lead into the question of, like, okay, so what did, you know what I mean? Like Sylvie killed He Who Remains, and that caused the multiverse or the timelines to start splitting and having all the different timelines, right, branching out. But none of the other Kangs are talking about that guy. Do they not know about that version of Kang? It starts making you question all kinds of things. Like, is He Who Remains, does that not happen till later? Or did that happen before all these other Kangs existed, so they don't know about him? You know, like, it's hard to wrap your head around, because you start thinking about the timeline, and they kind of go into it here. There's, like, you know, for the most part in this movie, Kang is being treated as just the conqueror of of the quantum realm, right? He's just the conqueror of these people who live there, which, by the way, the people are the thing that I'm not saying they could have been cut out, but they definitely are the weakest element of this movie. When people say it feels like Star Wars, I think what they mean is that, like, well, you know, there's a sci-fi rebellion against this imperial force, and it's this army of ragtag group of rebels all trying to fight these people, right? The only problem is, of course, these are all new characters in the quantum realm, and all these rebel soldiers, and while some of them are funny, you know, they have like real funny moments, you don't really care about any of them. I could not tell you any of their names, and you know, I think the entire purpose of this rebellion, this group that our heroes come across, I think really their entire purpose was to give exposition about Kang, and also so that way the third act could have a big army CGI fight with Kang's army, right? Which Kang's army also, like, at first I thought they were robots, but then they started talking like they're not robots, so I'm like, okay, so I guess these are not Kang robots, these are just soldiers that he has. Maybe they were also locals and they just stay dedicated to Kang, I don't really know. But, you know, they kind of gloss over the fact that he conquered the quantum realm, because that's not really what the movie's about. The movie's about him trying to leave the quantum realm, and they gotta stop that from happening, you know? So all of the rebellion and the people in the quantum realm and this whole thing, it feels very generic and very forgettable, and it's absolutely the weakest part of the movie. And so, like, if I have one major criticism about this, it's like all of that stuff, I don't care about any of those people, any of that stuff. You know, like there's like this little gooey guy who's like, how many holes you got? I got so many holes. And it was funny, like the audience was reacting, and it was funny, but it's like, I don't know this guy's name. I'm not gonna remember that other guy's name. I'm not gonna remember that lady's name. There's a guy with like a crystal orange head. I don't know his name. You know, like, I don't know anything about these people. And it feels like after this movie, it doesn't matter anyways, because they all leave the quantum realm. Our heroes do, never to, you know, and I doubt they're ever going to interact with these people ever again. So it definitely was one of those things where it's like, all right, we need like a generic rebel group, and our heroes run into some of them, and, you know, they got a lot of screen time. And that, you know, that, again, this is just my one major criticism, is this aspect of the movie. Is like, this rebel group feels like they didn't need to be there. You could have just said that Kang conquered the quantum realm, and there you go, you know? So anyways, that's just my one major gripe. If I had one actual, like, okay, I wish that this was different, it's just this rebel group. They don't need to be there. They had a lot of screen time dedicated to them, and they're not going to mean anything. It doesn't feel like it, at least. And they're so forgettable. I can't, you know, like, they're so generic that, like, you could switch them out with characters from Firefly. You know, like they just remind me, like, okay, this is just like that character from Firefly, who's just like that character from Star Wars, who's just like that character from, you know, insert sci-fi rebellion group here. You know, like, just, it's like, okay, I get it. I don't know. It was weird. Anyways, back to Kang. So Kang and the multiverse and the Kang dynasty and all that's really interesting. It's all set up for the next, you know, Kang dynasty that's coming out. And we even get a secondary I almost said cutscene. Secondary post-credit scene where it appears to be a clip from the second season of Loki, where they're dealing with another version of Kang. He's on stage during like the 20s or 30s or something, called Victor Timely, or, you know, his last name's Timely. But, you know, it's Jonathan Majors again. So, like, basically what we're kind of getting the sense of is that through Loki, and probably through who knows how many other of these movies and TV shows that are going to come out before Kang Dynasty, we're going to be dealing with a lot of different Kangs. And here's the thing, and some people are going to be upset that, like, the version of Kang in this movie, he does get killed. He gets, you know, at first he's being attacked by all these ants, and then we'll talk about MODOK, but MODOK ends up kind of turning to a good guy, sort of, and he tries to stop Kang, and then, of course, as we see in the trailer, Kang and Ant-Man have this big fist fight, and basically they destroy the battery that Kang was trying to find the whole movie, and Kang gets, like, sucked into the explosion, and that's how he dies, right? Now, the thing is, the big threat about Kang is not the fact that he is physically powerful. You know, he's not as strong as Thor or the Hulk or anything like that, right? Like Thanos, you know, Thanos was really powerful and strong and he could literally fist fight the Hulk. Kang is not that guy. Kang is just a man. Like he says it in this movie. He's just a guy, but he's got so much future technology and he knows so much about the multiverse and timelines and all that. And the thing that makes him a threat to everybody is the fact that there are so many variants of him that have that same thing. They're all time travelers, you know, variants of time travelers, variants of people who know, you know, the end of time and the beginning of time, and they've all lived thousands of years, and they've all killed different versions of Avengers and conquered different multiverses, you know. So the threat is how many of them there are, and really it's like you kill one Kang, and it's like, okay, but does this matter? Does this even matter? Because more Kangs are coming, you know. And at the end, Scott Lang even kind of thinks about things to himself in this monologue where he's like, well, all right, I stopped Kang, I saved the day. And then he's like, wait a minute, well, Kang did say if you stop me, more things are coming. Wait, did I just kill everybody? You know, he kind of thinks all these thoughts to himself, which I don't know if this was just like some kind of reshoot where they had him monologuing, doing a voiceover while he's walking down the street. But anyways, they're getting the point across that Kang's big threat is the fact that he's going to be everywhere. Different versions of him are going to be everywhere. They're going to be in Loki, they're going to be in this movie, they'll probably be in different movies. The Kang dynasty, I imagine we're going to be fighting many Kangs, you know, like throughout the whole movie you might be able to like, all right, I killed this Kang, I killed this Kang. There's just more. There's always going to be more Kangs. So like, how do you stop a guy whose variants are all time travelers and all multiverse hoppers, you know? Like, how do you stop someone like that? Because like, it's just going to go on forever, you know? So that's really his big threat. He's able to fight Ant-Man, but he's not, you know, he's not Thanos where he's going to physically fight people like that, you know? He's got technology and you know, variants on his side. So the Kang dynasty is essentially the name for the Council of Kangs, and that's who the bad guys are in the Kang dynasty. So now we know. So yeah, just all that stuff being set up, all that's really interesting, and that's essentially like this movie just feels like one big stepping stone to that stuff. And if you're going in there for that, you're gonna have a good time with this movie, you know. But like I said, there's like the whole generic army thing, and there's just a lot of like, you know, there's not a whole lot of Ant-Man-ness in this movie. Like there's still some of the humor, but we're missing Ant-Man's friends, you know, so like they're not here to add in. It feels like there are some flavors of Ant-Man missing, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And now let's talk about MODOK. Okay, so MODOK, like you all know, it is Darren Cross. It is the Yellow Jacket from the first movie. Of course, he got sucked into the quantum realm, but he was found alive and Kang fixed him. And now he's, you know, the whole movie he keeps insisting like, no, Darren Cross is dead. I am the mechanical organism designed only for killing, right? He's like, I am MODOK, you know? And it's just like this ongoing joke. And his character is just a joke in this movie. And I'm gonna be honest, I think it worked a lot. He looks weird. I don't think there was any version of this character that was not gonna look ridiculous. You know, a lot of people online have been like, well, if they did this, if they did that, if they, you know, like, no, it was gonna look stupid. It was always gonna look stupid. It looks stupid. They acknowledge it looks stupid. He's played for a joke because he's a joke character. Like, I know that there's people who read the comics and they might be upset that he's played off as such a joke. Like, even, you know, he gets convinced to be a good guy by just a couple lines of dialogue about like, look, he's like, basically he's just told like, you don't have to be such a dick. He's like, but look at me, you know, like I am a dick, you know, like that whole thing. And if you remember, Darren Cross was being turned crazy by the, I don't know, quantum something in the first Ant-Man movie. So like, he's just even loopier and zanier now than he was then. And he was already kind of zany, right? So like, he's definitely like off the deep end in this movie. But yeah, just he turns good for like a second, and he sacrifices himself to destroy King's shield, and then he's dying, and his death scene is basically just kind of treated as a joke. It's like dramatic joking, you know, like oh, I'm dying, but at least I died an Avenger. And Ant-Man's like, sure, yeah, you're an Avenger, right? Like, does he even have the authority to do that? And then he said something like, Scott Lang, I've always thought of you as my brother. And he's like, what? And everyone's like, what are you talking? We met like for one day. We don't even know each other. So, you know, it just is a big joking character. It got a reaction from the audience. And I guess that's the thing, is that like everyone was laughing. It was working. It was, you know, like, so I know some people are going to be upset and they wish MODOK was taken seriously, but I'm gonna be honest, for me, I don't think there was any reality where that character was taken seriously. Now, again, just like this rebellion group, did MODOK need to be in this movie? No, probably not. You probably could have taken out MODOK and the rebellion group and made this a much more straight line of the family versus Kang, and you could have just had him use a bunch of technology instead of this, whatever this army was. Again, it was kind of unclear if they were robots or if they were soldiers that he has. I guess they were soldiers. But in any case, the things that I enjoyed about this movie, with the Kang and the setup of the Kang Dynasty and the multiverse and like all these conversations that they started having about who he is and why he's such a big threat, that all worked so well that, like, yeah, there's issues here, there's things that like I don't care about and I'm not going to remember, but ultimately I had a good time. The humor worked more than it didn't work, and they did a great job setting up what's coming up next, you know, like, so now Loki season 2, which we got a little bit of a snippet of, I'm like, okay, so how you know, like, they still have some things to explain, because I'm still kind of lost here as to, like, you know, He Who Remains, and then the multiverse split, but now there's all these Kangs, but they're kind of acting like they were always there, and there was, like, you know, this one started some other war, and they exiled him. I will say one thing, is that the Kang that we see in this movie, he very much embodies the comic book version, like the classic Kang with the blue face and the purple and green costume and all that. Like, that's who this one is. The other Kangs, you know, there are some that have, you know, different variations of that costume, but like, it feels like this is supposed to be the comic book version that everyone likes, and then this one dies. So now we have these other versions where, like, some of them are pharaohs and some of them look like more futuristic styled, you know, and they all talk differently. They all have like funny ways of talking, because they're all, you know, they're variants. They're not supposed to be the same guy completely. So I don't know, I think I prefer the way this one talks and the way this one looks, so hopefully we don't end up getting stuck with some of the weirder ones that don't work as well, I think. But that's kind of the fun thing about this character, is that, like, you can get really weird and zany with it. You can have some versions that are not as intimidating, not as crazy, because there's an infinite amount of them. You can just kill that one and then bring in a different one, you know? So that's kind of the fun thing about this character. But in any case, yeah, I enjoy this movie. I had a good time. I definitely see where the critics are coming from and how it's gotten such a mixed to negative reaction. Yeah, now, you know, as far as like the CGI and stuff like that, I don't know. I've never been picky about my CGI. I really haven't. A lot of people on Twitter, they'll post like a small clip of something, and they'll be like, "Look how horrible this CGI looks." And I'm watching the clip, and I just let it play like 3 or 4 times, and I'm like, I don't understand. How does this look horrible? Do you mean like it doesn't look photo real? Is that what you're saying? Because, well, yeah, no shit, right? Like, no, it's never gonna look photo real. I'm never gonna believe this. You know, it's like, I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe I just don't have the eye for it to say like what is bad and good CGI, because I'll be honest, all CGI just looks like CGI to me. I can't tell what's supposed to be good and what's supposed to be bad, and like, oh, this one looks horrible. I'm like, but it just looks like all the other CGI I see. I don't see how this is suddenly different than all the other ones. I don't know. Again, maybe I just don't have the eye for it, but the movie looks fine to me. It didn't look any better or worse than all of the other CGI I have seen in the last 15 to 20 years. So I don't know. That's just me though. I'm not 15 to 20 years. Sorry, 5 to 8 years. The modern era of CGI. There, I'll say that. Anyways, but yeah, I think finally, you know, I have at this point, because this is like what, the 38th Marvel movie or something. I kind of have it to where I either am gonna watch this movie on its own completely, or I'm not gonna really watch this unless I'm doing a full marathon rewatch of the entire franchise, right? And I definitely have, you know, so you can say that that's like the good pile and the bad pile, I guess, if you want to say it like that. This is definitely one that, despite its flaws, I can definitely see myself revisiting this movie just completely on its own, you know, and even if that's only because I want to see the Kang parts again, and I want to pay real close attention to everything they're talking about, because I'm like, okay, this is definitely going to matter, and this part is really crazy, but it brings up a lot of interesting questions as to how this works. You know, so I because of those elements, I can definitely see myself watching this one just on its own, you know. So this is, you know, this is not like Black Widow, where I'll probably never watch that unless I'm doing a marathon, you know. Anyways, but yeah, that's Ant-Man Quantumania. I had a pretty good time with it. It's definitely got its problems. It's definitely got some of that generic sci-fi stuff. Kang is, or not Kang, but MODOK is just a joke character, and some people are going to be upset by that. I thought it was funny, but I can definitely already tell some people would be like, they didn't take MODOK seriously. Like, okay. But yeah, I enjoyed this one. I enjoyed it, and even though this Kang is dead, it definitely cemented the fact that, like, that is exactly what his superpower, if you want to say he has one superpower, it's the fact that because, you know, probably most if not all of his variants are all time travelers / multiverse hoppers, that's what makes him a threat, you know. So yeah, kill this one, kill the next one, kill the one after that, because the whole point is that, like, it doesn't matter, he'll keep coming back. Another one will open up a portal and he'll be like, okay, now I'm here, now it's my turn, you know, and then the next one will do that. And it's like, how do you stop this guy? Because he'll just never stop showing up. It'll be like another version each time, you know, and they'll talk different, maybe look different, but, you know, like, that's the big threat of Kang, you know. Not that he is invincible and he's super powerful or anything. It's like, no, he can shoot lasers and he can do some cool stuff, but you can kill him, they'll just be another one, you know. And like, that's exactly what He Who Remains told Sylvie. It's like, I'll see you soon, you know, I'll just get reincarnated and I'll end up back here anyways, you know. Like, there'll be another one, there will always be another one, you know. So that's kind of his deal, you know. It's a very different threat than Thanos, and some people maybe won't jive with that. They won't think that that's threatening at all. But like, when a bunch of Kang start showing up, you know, probably many at the same time, it's like, well, shit, now there's a real problem, you know. So anyways, those are my thoughts on Ant-Man Quantumania. Yeah, I had a good time. It's not perfect. I would say it's better than Thor Love and Thunder. It's better than Black Widow, I think, you know. So it's definitely not like at the bottom of the list or anything. And I think, you know, its kind of saving grace is the fact that it has so much Kang multiverse timeline stuff. You know, remember watching Loki? You know, it's like, it has all this stuff that kind of makes you want to tie these pieces together and figure out how they're supposed to work. And that's the thing that makes it work. So anyways, that's my opinion, that's my review. Yeah, Ant-Man Quantumania. Let me know what you guys thought, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.